The day's big witness was a former security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel. Diddy then brought out a brown paper bag full of cash.
This shouldn't exist. That's how one insider described it. Newly leaked, never-before-seen footage of Diddy and Cassie. The clip, allegedly obtained by a hotel worker, is now at the center of a scandal rocking Hollywood. But here's where it gets strange. The person behind the leak, Sylvia Okun, was virtually unknown until now. How did she gain access to such an intimate, tightly secured moment? And more importantly, why now? As speculation spreads and silence deepens around those involved, this footage may hold more than just personal implications. It might reveal a story far more complex than anyone expected.
Today's big witness was a former security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel. He said Diddy paid him $100,000 to fork over what he thought was the one and only copy of a video of Cassie's assault. We also heard from someone inside Diddy's business empire, the former chief financial officer of Bad Boy Entertainment. Now, he claimed everything he did for the company was totally above board. And the jury saw a $20,000 wire transfer from Cassie's dad to Diddy, which was sent back days later. A former security officer for the Intercontinental Hotel, Eddie Garcia, testified the phone, well, it started ringing, and a lot. The calls were from Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Karam. Now, a reminder, she has not been charged in this case and has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing. Garcia says at one point she put Diddy himself on the line, and Garcia recalled what Diddy told him. He stated that, "I sounded like a good guy, but I sounded like I wanted to help, and that something like this can ruin him." Garcia said Diddy sounded nervous and promised to take care of him. Garcia, he then went to his boss and told him Diddy was willing to pay. His boss suggested $50,000. Garcia then called Diddy back, testifying he was excited. He said, "Eddie, my angel, I knew you could help. I knew you could do it." Garcia got the video on a thumb drive from his boss the next day, and then he gave it to Diddy in person. Garcia told the court that Diddy made him sign an NDA, and he said he even spoke with Cassie Ventura over FaceTime, saying, quote, "She said that she had a movie coming out and that it wasn't a good time for this to come out. She wanted it to go."
Just days ago, the name Sylvia Okun meant nothing to the public. Now she's at the center of an industry-shaking privacy breach. Reportedly a former behind-the-scenes employee at a luxury hotel known for hosting A-listers, Sylvia's job was unglamorous, but positioned her near elite clientele. Hotels like the one she worked at are fortresses of discretion. Surveillance footage is usually sealed off behind layers of protocol, viewable only by high-level personnel. Yet somehow Sylvia allegedly got access. The hotel hasn't been named, but insiders claim it caters to celebrities with strict privacy policies in place. So, how did a non-management staffer get her hands on sensitive footage? Some believe Sylvia was identified during an internal investigation. But whether this was an intentional leak, a technical failure, or a setup is still unclear. What's certain is this: Sylvia's link to the footage has opened a Pandora's box.
Then try to follow that, because that is some pretty compelling testimony to talk about the prosecution's case, that he was allegedly aware, that he didn't want this to see the light of day, which means potentially law enforcement would never see it.
That's right. And cross-examination was very brief, Laura. As you said, there's a ton of testimony to get into, seemingly damning testimony if these allegations that Eddie Garcia testified are all true. But all that the defense did is they pulled up this non-disclosure agreement, which Eddie Garcia told the jury that Diddy handed him, as he also handed him that bag of $100,000. And the defense, they showed a paragraph that says, in this NDA, it doesn't say that you can't testify about this one day. So basically trying to show they're not prohibiting him from participating in a trial like this, but that's really not the point. The takeaway with showing this NDA is it was on company letterhead. The top of that NDA said Combs Enterprises. And there was also a clause in there that told him if he breached the contract, he would have to pay the company, not Combs, the company, $1 million.
The so-called liquidated damages. That was one of two contracts that was essentially important here. He was also testifying under immunity.
That's right. And, that shows that Eddie Garcia, at least, was nervous because he knows that he was involved with covering something egregious up.
The notion that a single hotel worker could breach a surveillance system this protected has left the public stunned. What would push someone like Sylvia to take that risk? Was she retaliating against an employer? Seeking financial gain? Or was she manipulated, used as a pawn in something larger than she realized? Experts are baffled. Surveillance data at high end. Hotels is encrypted, tracked, and tightly controlled. So either someone gave Sylvia access, or she bypassed protocols on her own. Something that would require serious technical knowledge or inside help. If she acted alone, she could be facing criminal charges for privacy violations. But the bigger concern? Maybe she didn't act alone. At all. Could there be collaborators still in the shadows? And if so, who else had access and what else might have been recorded? This isn't just about a leak. It's about how deep this breach truly goes.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
All right, for a third day, Combs' former assistant known as Mia was back on the stand. Fox 5's Lisa Evers is live outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan with a breakdown of today's testimony. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha, Sean Diddy Combs sat at the defense table, his chair pushed back a little bit, his hands in his lap, folded and completely motionless as his former personal assistant, who was using the pseudonym Mia, testified on the stand that she was brainwashed. That's why she kept texting him affectionate messages years after she left. And that even though she testified earlier that he repeatedly sexually assaulted and abused her for years. Now, late this afternoon, Sean Diddy Combs' mother, Janice Combs, came out of court walking with one of her grandsons to the black Sprinter that takes the family to and from court. All morning and for most of the afternoon, one of Diddy's former personal assistants under the name Mia was under tough cross-examination from his lawyers about her claims that he sexually assaulted and physically and emotionally abused her for years. There were strong objections from the prosecutors, some of which were upheld, and the tensions grew. The aggressive line of questioning, which highlighted seemingly contradictory statements about her experience working for the disgraced hip-hop mogul. Mia said she made a happy birthday video for Combs, telling him that he was one of the biggest inspirations in her life, and said, "I love you." This afternoon, she said she did it because it was part of her job, and she feared what would happen if she did not do it. Now, most of the day, she kept her head down, her long blonde bangs hiding most of her face as she spoke. She said she was speaking out not for money, but so she could look her niece and her goddaughters in the eye. Now, from the very beginning, Sean Combs' defense team has said that, admittedly, he's abused women, incidents of domestic violence, as well as having a hot temper that at times grew violent, and that he had a substance abuse problem, but that he was not a sex trafficker. So he's maintained his innocence throughout this, saying he's not.
What kind of hotel loses control of surveillance footage involving high-profile guests? The one Sylvia Okun worked at is rumored to be part of a luxury chain, built on trust, privacy, and discretion. But that image is now shattered. Security experts are raising serious concerns. How did someone in a reportedly low-level role pull this off? Either access was granted by mistake, or the hotel's system was flawed from the start. The footage itself reportedly doesn't show public areas like hallways. Sources say it reveals far more private, less accessible spaces, areas that guests would assume were off-camera entirely. Even more disturbing? The footage isn't new, it's several years old. So why release it now? And if it was sitting untouched for years? What else is sitting in the hotel's archives? This isn't just a one-off violation. It might be a signal that other guests are vulnerable too.
Cash and counted out $100,000 with a money counter. Garcia said that he split that money with his boss and another security officer. And the next witness was former Bad Boy Entertainment CFO Derek Ferguson. Now, he testified that Diddy's personal and business finances would sometimes overlap, but he said he never saw anyone help Diddy commit crimes. The prosecution also showed a statement from Diddy's bank account for his New Jersey home. It shows the account transferring $20,000 to Cassie on December 14, 2011. On December 23rd, Cassie's dad wired $20,000 into the account. 4 days later, it was sent back. Now that lines up with the testimony from Cassie Ventura's mother on the stand. Recall that she said that she sent Diddy $20,000 after Cassie told her Diddy was threatening to leak sex tapes. We had no idea how instrumental and individualized attention was given by Diddy.
This was brand new information. So as you said, we have heard that $100,000 figure before that came from the government's indictment, but they had no other details in the indictment other than he paid $100,000 to try to bribe someone to get this away. What we heard today shows the alleged great lengths and efforts that Diddy himself, as a world-renowned celebrity, took to make sure that this was buried. You heard Eddie Garcia say on the stand, Diddy himself told him, this can ruin me, this can ruin my career. That gives us a clear state of mind that Diddy was in. He knew that his behavior on that was egregious. He knew it could ruin him. As you said, he called him Eddie my angel. Strange name to call someone that you've never met. Also strange for a celebrity to get on the phone with you himself. They usually have people do that for them, and he did. As you said, Christina Karam was on the phone, but she constantly brought Diddy on there. Just really an incredible picture of what Eddie Garcia testified happened, that he is brought by Diddy up to this hotel room, given a brown bag full of $100,000 cash.
A man who makes $10.50 an hour at the time.
Exactly. And then that Diddy comes out with a money counting machine, which Eddie Garcia testified, he told the jury, it seems like he's done this before. And then Diddy himself takes Eddie Garcia down the elevator and basically, bids him farewell. He pays for his valet at the hotel, and he asks him, what are you going to do with this money? And tells him, don't spend it all at once, meaning it could get suspicious. So really, again, brand new information and showing the great lengths that Diddy allegedly went to make sure that this never came.
Why did this footage surface now? That's the question no one can answer, and it's igniting theories. Diddy and Cassie's relationship has long been the subject of speculation. Curated photo ops, controlled appearances, whispers of trouble behind the scenes. Cassie has since moved on, living a quiet family life. Diddy remains a polarizing figure, often dodging controversy, only to have it resurface at the worst possible moments. So was the timing of this leak calculated? Some say yes. There are theories that Sylvia's release wasn't spontaneous, that someone wanted this to drop, whether to apply pressure, shift public perception, or derail business ventures tied to Diddy. Others believe Sylvia may have had personal reasons or financial motives. Releasing old footage now suggests a deeper intent, not a rash decision, but a move made with strategy. And the footage, described as raw, emotionally intense, and possibly career-ending. Those who've seen it suggest it captures an unsettling moment between Diddy and Cassie, one never meant for the public eye. It's not just gossip. It could rewrite what we thought we knew about their relationship and expose what the public was never supposed to see.
He admitted that Combs gave him money to make sure this video went away. Now, we know some people might call this a bribe, colloquially. Is it enough for the prosecution to say, no, this was most assuredly a type of bribe that would be a predicate crime, as they keep saying, for RICO?
Of course they're going to argue that was a predicate crime in addition to the obstruction. But so what? Meaning, if someone came after me because I did something truly bad, or even alleging I did something really bad, I have a legal career. I might say, I will pay you money because you're taking advantage and you're actually extorting me. You might do the same. And if you have the other party saying, I'm in agreement, I have a movie, I don't want this coming out, when does me doing an NDA, Stormy Daniels was an NDA, and that in and of itself was not the illegality. Why can't someone who has so much to lose, who's a hands-on freak, not just into freak-offs, be fully on this entire episode to shut it down? Because if that domestic violence tape ever came out, he's screwed.
I'm so glad you mentioned Stormy Daniels, because I've been thinking about this today in terms of a jury that might be all the more fluent than they probably ever would have been in New York about catch and kill, right? This phenomenon where you've got bad press coming out and you're paying a tabloid or otherwise to say, how about you just take that and it never sees the light of day? And we didn't see a RICO charge in that case. That was state court, obviously, so very different. But when you hear about that and think about how a jury might view, well, hold on, celebrities all the time, they've got DUIs, they've got videos, they've got dirt and skeletons. Isn't damage control part of what the rich folks do?
I mean, I think there has to be a difference between damage control and seeing a potential criminal case coming down the pipe and saying, I don't want that criminal case to ever see the light of day. And that's how I see these are being two separate situations. In the scenario you painted, absolutely. If you do something that's embarrassing or could cause you reputational harm, you want to shut it down, you want to pay somebody money, that could be a contractual agreement between two people. God bless. However, if you've committed a crime and there is evidence of that crime, and you tell somebody, I want to obtain and get rid of essentially the only copy, all evidence of my crime, that to me starts looking a lot more like obstruction than just a con.
The leak has shaken Hollywood, and it's only the beginning. If private surveillance footage from a secure hotel can surface years later, no space is truly safe. Insiders hint at troubling moments in the footage: visible tension, raw vulnerability. And while no one has confirmed the exact contents, those who've seen it say it redefines what we thought about Diddy and Cassie's past. The damage goes far beyond tabloid drama. For Diddy, it's another blow to a carefully managed legacy. For Cassie, it's an invasion of a life she's spent, years rebuilding in peace. And for Sylvia Okun, the once invisible hotel worker now sits at the center of a storm. If she accessed or shared private footage illegally, the consequences could be severe: felony charges, lawsuits, and financial ruin. But the real question is this it? Because if Sylvia got hold of this footage, what else did she access? And who else might be in danger of having their private moments exposed? The legal fallout is just beginning. Already, reports say lawsuits are being prepared against Sylvia, the hotel, and potentially unnamed third parties. This isn't just a scandal, it's a warning shot, a signal that even the most trusted spaces can betray you. And as the story unfolds, one chilling truth emerges. This leak might not be the end. It might be the beginning of something much bigger.